Like, aren't I a woman too? I deserve respect, I deserve love, and I am worthy of a long-term committed relationship, just like any other woman. In this video, I am going to talk about my experience with online dating as a Black woman and how that affected my self-esteem. My name is Heather Louise and I am a mental health counselor. I am passionate about all things related to mental health with a special interest in improving self-esteem for Black women and healing racial trauma. So if you are interested in those sort of videos, please subscribe to my channel. I post every single Sunday. In my last video, I talked about how structural racism, such as microaggressions and racial bias, impacted my mental health, specifically my self-esteem, and how it brought on racial trauma. The one example that I briefly touched on was how throughout my life, I repeatedly heard, "You are pretty," for a Black girl. And majority of those comments came about when I was online dating. And I heard many different versions of this comment, but I will touch on that later. I just want to start off this video by talking about the OkCupid study where they tested daters' racial preferences. Now, many people have their preferences when it comes to finding that special someone. Maybe you prefer someone who is really athletic. Maybe you prefer someone that is an avid reader. I know some of us may want someone who's taller than us or maybe shorter than us. What about racial preferences? Is that okay to have preferences based on race? When you ask people if they are open to dating outside of their race, you will hear answers such as, "Sure, I'm open to it. You know, if that person came into my life and I was interested, yeah, I'd be open to dating outside my race for sure. You know, I love all races." However, OkCupid found out that many of you guys are liars, or maybe just not aware that you have preferences based on race. If you're not familiar with OkCupid's platform, and from what I can remember from being on it, you can filter out your potential match based on age, distance, religion, availability, body type, and the list was endless. In 2014, OkCupid gathered data from their users based off the racial preference filter to see if people are really as open to dating outside of their race as they think that they are. The study concluded that Black women and Asian men were the least desirable group and were less often selected as a potential match for the majority of the users. I mean, imagine how I felt after coming across this study. This study just basically confirmed to me not only the guys that I were matching with thought that Black women were not attractive, but also the majority of men, regardless of their race, regardless of their background, think that Black women just aren't as valuable or attractive as other women. This has me questioning, where has this come from? Why do so many people think like this? Recently, I listened to the Blinkist version of Ain't I a Woman by Bell Hooks. The author discusses that society's negative view of Black women goes all the way back to slavery. In the 19th century, women were viewed as pure and innocent in society. And when I say women, I'm talking about white women here. Black women, however, were seen as promiscuous, sexual heathens, immoral temptresses, and unchaste. They were viewed as property and often were victims of sexual assault from white men. Black women were not allowed to deny these sexual advances, and if they did, they were often thrown in prison, were punished severely, or even killed. Sometimes they were even given rewards or items for their submission. The author then discusses that even after slavery was abolished, this negative view of Black women continued from various articles that portrayed Black women to be open to sexual advances, and they were even portrayed to like it, to like this sort of attention. During this time, tensions within the Black household between Black men and Black women began to become strained. And this was due to the fact that Black men had difficulty finding gainful employment because white employers just refused to hire them. Therefore, Black women had to go out and seek domestic service jobs to take care of their family. And this really tested the belief that men should be the head of the household, working to provide and take care of the family. In order for Black men to regain some power back within their household, they had to pretty much adapt the negative views on Black women that society held, which led to some of them becoming violent towards Black women and even degrading them. Also, Hooks talks about how the civil rights movement played a part in the negative views on Black women. And I thought that this part was really interesting. She explains that after the civil rights movement, Black men had better chances to go out there and get a job and be able to take care of their families. Those Black men then expected Black women to take more of a passive role within the household. And this was very difficult for Black women because, as I have said, Black women needed to be strong, hence the strong Black woman, and take care of their families for a long period of time. Therefore, Black men started to view Black women as less attractive as their social standing began to align with the patriarchal system. Some began to seek out relationships with women who were seen as more submissive. Now, everything that I just touched on is definitely still relevant today in 2020 right now. And, you know, just looking back at my online dating experiences, I would often have men ask me, what are you mixed with? Like, I can't possibly be Black and attractive. I would also hear Black men talk about why they don't date Black women because they are too combative or too independent. Another common question that I would get after matching with white men is, are you down with a swirl? Or are you interested in white men? And I just think that this one was really weird because if I wasn't interested in white men, how did we match? But after looking back at those questions, I'm starting to wonder if that question really was for me. Perhaps they were still questioning whether or not what their interest was with a Black woman, whether they wanted to take them really seriously for a long-term commitment, or did they just want to fulfill some sexual fantasy? With many different men, it was a lot of due to sexual fantasy reasons. They just wanted to experience what it was like to be with a Black woman. I also experienced men thinking it was okay to immediately objectify me within the first couple messages. Now, I know many women from all different backgrounds have definitely experienced this sort of behavior, especially now with the whole hookup culture that we are all in. I do want to say that I think as a Black woman, it brings it to a whole nother level because as everything that I just talked about, Black women are seen to be open to these sort of sexual advances and are viewed as the least desirable group. So not only would I experience a lot of these inappropriate messages, those messages were really aggressive in nature without even me doing anything at all. I know that when I was on there, I would basically be covered head to toe in my pictures or a turtleneck, explain that like I'm only here for a serious relationship, yet I continuously kept getting these messages despite how much I tried to protect myself or just to say like I'm not interested in that sort of thing. And now I know what Sojourner Truth talked about when she said, ain't I a woman? Like, aren't I a woman too? I deserve respect, I deserve love, and I am worthy of a long-term committed relationship just like any other woman. But for some reason, Black women are viewed to be the least desirable, and like myself, are often victims of these negative, unwanted messages from many different people. And with all of this said, of course, this affected my self-esteem. And with seeing these messages over and over again, it became really traumatic for me. I do want to say to all Black women, if you are currently struggling with this or have struggled with this in the past, that you are worthy of love and respect, just like any other woman. I know that it's harder for us to find that special someone, but that person is out there for you. Just remember to go where you are loved and respected, regardless of that person's race or background. In the meantime, please focus on building your self-love and self-esteem. And if you haven't seen my video on how to do that, I will link it up above. But let me know your thoughts about online dating and your experience in the comments. I would love to hear from you. And if you like this video, let me know by subscribing, and I will talk to you soon.